Hey, welcome to the In Between Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything. And this episode is devoted to mental health awareness. We are in the month of May, which is the Mental Health Awareness Month. So let's get this conversation started. Joining me today is my best friend, Evie Salcido, and she will be sharing with us a couple things about mental health. And I cannot wait to get this conversation started. So let's dive in. Hey Evie, welcome back to the In Between Podcast. You were featured on the last episode of the Star Wars May the 4th be with you, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you back. Thank you for being here. So, Evie is joining us today. She has a background in psychology and working with children and their parents in regards to mental health. So, what a better guest than to have her here with us today. So, we have decided to do this, do our part for the month of May, to do our little part. Anyone out there maybe struggling with mental health, maybe this episode or this podcast can help them in any sort of way. It will be something small that we can do. So let's get the conversation started with a couple statistics. Everybody knows what happened last year. We were in a pandemic thanks to the COVID-19 virus, and it affected a lot of things that we normally do, like going to school, going to work, having a normal life, having a social life. And the statistics say that a lot of people started struggling with mental health issues and substance abuse. And one of those statistics says that in the late month of June, 40% of U.S. adults reported struggling with mental health or substance abuse. So it was big. The impact of the COVID-19 virus was really big. And another one that I want to share with you real quick is 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged between 6 and 17 experience mental health disorder each year. This is very concerning. So let's get the conversation started. I already talked too much. So, Evie, what can you tell us about what is mental health?
Well, first of all, it's good to be back. Thank you for having me and for giving me this, opportunity to share and bring awareness because that's what, it's all about, letting people know about mental health and what it is. And, like we're going to talk about the importance of it today. Well, I just want to first, share with you guys that we all, are human beings. We all have a mind. We all have emotions. We all have behaviors and those things are an vital importance in our life, in our daily life. So just talking about this is gonna, bring this well-being for each and every one of us. And that's what mental health is. Mental health is the state of well-being, and which an individual, which us as humans, we have abilities, we have, these things that we face in life, these stressors in our life that we have to learn to manage and we have to learn to face because they come with this life, these difficulties, these, illnesses, these unfortunate events, you may call them, because, they sometimes come out of nowhere and we have to learn to face them, and that's what mental health is like learning to face these things with a good mind, a good, you know, um, emotional condition, and also just like a good, you know, thought, when you come into these things in your life. Um,
I want to add something there real quick. You said,
yeah.
we all struggle with this, and there's a statistic that troubled me a lot. It says half of lifetime mental illnesses begins by age 14, and especially someone like you who has a background in psychology knows the importance of being aware of such issues at this time, especially with the hormones running around like crazy at the age of 14, and this being the time where 70, like half of lifetime mental health issues happen. I think it's a good place to start evaluating mental health right at this age.
Oh, definitely, yes. Um, well, let me just
Yeah.
go into like the importance of it. And it's an importance in every stage of your life. So from when you're a child to a teenager to an adult, like learning how to manage your emotions, how to deal with conflict in life, and just knowing the abilities we have and using them, to have a productive life, that's important to learn from when you're young. Unfortunately, like many, children don't learn how to. So when they become teenagers, and that's why we start seeing it when you're in your teenage years, because it starts to manifest. These mental health disorders start to show
Yeah.
in different symptoms, because as a child, well, you're like, oh, because they're a child, and
Mm-hmm.
they're learning in life, so we kind of don't pay attention to it
True.
until we start seeing a pattern, and you won't start seeing a pattern until later. And sometimes it can be caught early on,
Mm-hmm.
but you will start to see it more as you start having to go to school, you start having to go to work, you start having to face like those issues. And just as adulting, when you become an adult, you start to have more responsibilities, you start to face more things in life, and then you start to see this person not being able to manage or not being able to overcome these things in their life.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts to show. um, so that's why, as a young, child, you have to learn these things and learn to manage. So then, when you become older, you're able to face these challenges with, that resilience, and with, that strength to overcome whatever comes your way. Um, so it's yeah, it's something that we start to see in the teenage years more because of that.
So
And just
as things start escalating in our lives, more things, college, work, responsibilities, the statistics tell us that by the age of 14, 75% of young people start to suffer from mental health issues. And so this is troubling because we all live very hectic lives, very fast paced
yeah,
lives, especially those in college, those that have work, and maybe even those that are managing work, school, and a family. You have to deal
oh,
with so
definitely,
many stuff being thrown at you. And on top of that, we had the pandemic thrown at on top of all that, people with no work, maybe not, struggling to
definitely.
meet ends meet, but yeah. So okay, so we have that basis. What causes mental health disorders?
What causes mental health disorders? This is a very heavy question
Yeah.
because there's many things. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just one factor. There's like many factors that um, add up on top of each other. So we have these daily stressors in our lives. We have problems that come out of nowhere. We have new things that come in our lives. Having to go to college. You're finishing high school. You're having to go to college. After college, you start having to work, and like you mentioned, sometimes you start college and you start work, and then you have all these bills out of nowhere just like pop up,
Oh yeah.
like and you're living at home, and not having to pay any bills, not having to go to work. Yet some people, like, they start having to work young and start having to pay bills younger, so they start already experiencing these stressors in their
Mm-hmm.
lives at an earlier age than most other young adults. But for some, they, like, for myself, I experienced them like after high school.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to college. I had to start paying bills and things like that. So just on top of that, there can be other factors. There could be genes, biological factors. There could be as well, like, um, traumas in your past. So
Yeah.
from childhood that, can still be there. You just, sometimes we repress those memories.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what that means is just like we want to forget about them, but we can't really forget about them because
True.
they're a part of us. So you kind of just hide them back there in that little area of our brain that it's not consciously on our mind 24/7, but it affects us still. The way we feel, the way we deal with life, the way we face people,
Yeah.
it affects everything in our lives. So I just want to also share some other factors. It could also be like social isolation and loneliness that can
Which
add to.
that was a huge deal during the pandemic where we all had to stay inside our
Yeah,
homes, right? Yeah. I mean, I'll
absolutely.
speak from experience. I try to avoid social situations as much as possible, but I did feel the the need to go out and see people where we couldn't do that during the pandemic, and I did feel my anxiety because I do suffer from anxiety levels go up because of that. So wow, that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because, before we have that choice of if we want to, spend
Mhm.
time with people, or if we want to go out, or if we want to, put ourselves in those situations, But
Yeah.
in this, I guess event, we were kind of told we couldn't, we couldn't go to school, we couldn't go to work, we couldn't even go out to eat, and that's
Mhm.
a huge thing for people, just going out and eating together. That is very important,
Yeah.
because when you sit at the table, you talk about your life. When you sit at
Mhm.
the table, you talk about like how's work going, how's school going, like and things like that, And getting that taken away, it was huge, and especially in my line of work, it was a big impact in the people that we served in our community, because what we would do is we would call people and just follow up with them. Before the pandemic, we would go to their homes, we would speak to them, we would provide services, we would they had this sense of feeling, that there was people there,
Yeah.
to support them. And it's a different thing being there in person than giving them a call,
Oh,
even though it's
definitely.
important as well,
Yeah.
because we did that as well, but it's just a big difference when you have people there, um, and then you just feel that support, you just feel that presence of a person. It
Mhm.
changes drastically, how you feel. So definitely that was a big factor, just that social isolation and that loneliness a lot of people felt. And from kids, kids are like, why can't I go to school to see my friends, like
Yeah.
teenagers, they're like, no, I like just being home. But in reality, you go to school and you do see your friends. Like it like creates this environment, or it pushes you to have to talk to people,
Yeah.
so you don't realize it, but it really does, help you with that socialization, having to sit next to a person even though you don't know them, having to work with them in groups,
Mhm.
that in itself like really helps you, with your socialization. But getting that all taken away and having to work by yourself, having to do everything on your own, it really like is it was a big impact on a lot of people, kids, youth, and even adults,
Yeah.
you know
Definitely.
so that's definitely a huge factor. Another one is just losing bereavement, so losing someone you love, and
Mhm.
especially during the pandemic, we saw that a lot. Not be even being able to go in the hospital with someone that had to go get treated, not being able to properly, have a funeral where all your family is there,
Yeah.
and just those things are so important, for us to be able to deal with those things so we can have a state of well-being. We weren't given those, just those opportunities to do that,
Mhm. Yeah.
so that just played a big role in the pandemic, but just in general, in our daily life before the pandemic, even that in itself, you know, because when you lose someone, you tend to close yourself off.
Mhm.
You tend to, make yourself feel isolated, like, no one understands me. And at times, like, that's how you feel, that's
Yeah.
how a person feels. And you can't tell them, like, no, we understand. Like, if they feel like you don't understand them, then, that's how they're feeling,
Yeah.
in that moment. And they just have, to find a way to, manage it and cope with it,
Mhm.
you know. Um, and then I just want to continue
Yeah.
because
Go
there's
ahead.
so much you can talk about that, but there's so many other factors. We can talk about homelessness, unemployment. We've seen that as well during the pandemic. And then we also see drug and alcohol abuse. We see domestic violence. I would deal with that a lot in my line of work, with just, mothers having to receive services because of GV in their home and their kids getting taken away. Just all of these things on top of what we already deal with in our
Mm-hmm.
life, just the things, the basic needs that we have as humans,
Mm-hmm.
um, just all these factors that add on top of it can really like weigh down on your mental health. And not knowing how to manage them, especially at a younger age, can really be a drastic, impact in your life, and to where it's a long term thing. All these stressors become like part of your, life in a way.
Yeah.
And you feel like you can't escape them, and that those can lead to these mental health disorders.
So, you share with us a couple of the things that cause mental health disorders, but we have to be honest. There's a lot of things that can cause mental health disorders, and there's a lot of different mental health disorders out there. And I think that if we would do that, we would have a really, really long conversation and a very in-depth conversation. But looking through the statistics, two of the most prominent mental health disorders that came out during the pandemic were anxiety and depression, which brings me to my next question to you. What is anxiety and how we define it?
What is anxiety? So just in general, these are two of the very most common, mental health disorders, for young adults and even in, your older years as well. So to break it down, to take it to the root, anxiety in itself is a normal emotion,
Mm-hmm.
something we all feel. Anything that scares us, anything new, and when we're put in a place, that we're not comfortable
Yeah.
with, or with people we don't know, we're gonna naturally feel anxious.
Yeah.
When we are gonna, take a test, when we are gonna go into interview for the first time, we're going to feel these things, and
Mm-hmm.
just ourselves, because that's an emotion that's inside of us. So just anxiety in itself is not a mental health disorder. It's
Mm-hmm.
a feeling. That's what I want to make
Yeah.
clear, because sometimes when we feel anxiety, we're like, oh, I think I have the anxiety, and we say it
Mm-hmm.
like we have the disorder, but we don't. It's just we're feeling anxious. So, everyone now and then they feel it. For example, you may feel, when you have a problem at work, you're going to feel that anxiety.
Yeah.
When you are, just going into just a new setting, a new place, you're going to feel those emotions. So it's very good to know the difference between, anxiety and an anxiety disorder. Um, when you're anxious, what things do you feel? You feel, you may get your hands or your palms may get sweaty.
Mm.
Your heart may start to beat, may
That's me.
start to race faster. So just knowing yourself and your body, and knowing what anxiety is, and just how you feel in certain situations, is important. Just so having that awareness. That's what we're doing here. Bringing awareness to, what mental health is, and then right now, letting you guys know like what anxiety is,
Mm-hmm.
and not to get it confused. And I'm just gonna emphasize that so much.
Good.
And even with when we go on to, um, speaking about other, disorders, that's the main importance, distinguishing the emotion, from the disorder,
Yeah.
because anxiety and anxiety disorders are two different things. Occasional anxiety is okay, like you're
Mm-hmm.
okay to feel anxious. I want to let you guys know that. But when you feel consistently feel these emotions and you can't function in your daily life, that's when you should start getting a little worried and start to, see those symptoms or see those cues, and that's
Mm-hmm.
when you should, seek for help if you don't know what's going on. So excessive anxiety, or fear of certain thing or an object, that can be an anxiety disorder. So like we normally get anxious when we go into groups, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we go to these settings. But if we that anxiety persists to where you can't even function in the sense like you can't get a job because you're so anxious, you just want to stay home all the
Mm-hmm.
time. You can't even go outside to the store to go get, the basic needs that you need to do. Or, you just like now, like we're so used to being at home, not wanting to go back to school and just like, having that anxiety to where it's no longer just like a normal, like excessive heartbeat, but now it's like something where you can't breathe,
Mm-hmm.
where, you might faint,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like an excessive feeling of these symptoms. That's when it becomes worrisome. And it's when it's for a long period of time, because we can feel anxious in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're no longer in that upsetting environment where we're in a safe environment, where a comfortable environment, and we're still feeling like that, that's when it should be worrisome.
Gotcha.
Because like you feel, in your home, you're like you feel safe, but if you're still feeling anxious at home, you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't, because that's,
It's a
an
safe
environment,
place. Yeah, it's a safe
safe,
place.
yeah, place. So that's when it could lead to an anxiety disorder. I
Mm-hmm.
myself cannot diagnose, so I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying that's something that can lead to that.
Yeah,
Um,
general facts. Yeah, for sure. So with that being said, thank you for defining anxiety. What is depression?
Depression, just like we, talked about with anxiety, that it's an emotion. So sadness as well is a human emotion. We feel sad, when we lose a loved one, when things change in our life that are unexpected, when, things don't go the way we planned them to go.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get into the college that we wanted to, get into. Just speaking to those young people, like finishing high school and going, into college, university, not getting into that master's program you wanted. For children, not doing all the things that you wanted to do in the summer that you normally were gonna do, especially during the pandemic. It changed a lot of our plans,
Yeah.
for adults. The financial stability, getting taken away. So you feel this sadness, when these things happen, in your life. And that's fine to feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
But when that sadness overtakes you or overwhelms you to a point where it stays, it lingers,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have moments of happiness. You don't have moments where the things you love to do,
Mm-hmm.
um, like you don't feel that happiness for them anymore.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel joy and going out anymore, or like to a park to walk, something you love to do before,
Yeah.
exercise, or going out to eat. Like you don't feel, being around your friends, and you don't feel that same happiness anymore. That's when it can become a, depression.
Yeah.
It can become that disorder when it stays there, and you start to feel like irritable, like you start to feel this tiredness, that it's not that you're lazy. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
this fatigue that just, overtakes you. And it could be like difficulty concentrating in the most simplest thing,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have difficulty concentrating in, certain moments. And that's fine, but it's like just difficulty concentrating when someone's talking to you.
Yeah.
You like, especially to a person like your family member, your loved one, or friend, that before you can listen to them for an hour, and now like you just don't have that interest that you had before.
Mm-hmm.
That's when those symptoms just start to like, worry, you, or sometimes you may not even notice it. Someone else may see
Yeah.
those things, and you're like, okay, this is not the same Evelyn I knew, like
Yeah.
last year. You can see, um, in a person. It could even lead to like, thoughts, of taking your life, like not feeling like, you have even a purpose anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have a moment where we were like, what are we gonna do in this world? Like, what's our purpose in this life? We all have that thought
Yeah.
inside of us, but it's to a point where, you know, what's my purpose? And then it leads to those thoughts where like, okay, like there's no purpose for me, so I'm gonna take my life. And that's very worrisome because, okay, I can think about it like, with my purpose and then try to plan out something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's to where a point where you don't feel like you can even do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you just feel like the only escape or the only route is to take away
Taking
your
your
life.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is when it becomes, no longer, just an emotion or just a thought, but where it becomes a more of a disorder and it's
Yeah.
something
And
that needs to
now
be
that you
treated.
mentioned that, I there's a statistic that I found that suicide is the second cause of death among people age 10 to 34 in the US. So this is something that we should all look for, not just in our personal lives, but look out for other people that we care for, to make sure that you see the symptoms that Evelyn's talking about
Mhm.
in your loved ones, in your coworkers, because you never know. We might have to reach out to somebody and help out because maybe they haven't realized it themselves. Like you said, someone can have these symptoms, can be in depression, but they might not be able to recognize it or know themselves. So it's important that I believe that we should all be aware of this to look out and help each other out. Yeah,
Yes, it is. So we play a big role in people's lives. We do.
yeah. So it's good. It's good. I think it's good to, if you don't do it, practice it. Talk to people, check in on them, how their day is going. I think stuff like that helps. And I'll talk from experience, especially with depression, because I've dealt with that in the past. Um, it really helped me when my friends would check in on me on a daily basis. Not necessarily through a phone call, maybe through a FaceTime call or a text, but they were there making sure that I was fine and stuff like that. It helped me. And right now when you were talking about that depression leads you to not wanting to do the things that you loved. Me, I enjoy singing, I enjoy writing music. When I was going through that, I just did not want to do none of those things. I just wanted to be isolated, alone, and even yeah, I contemplated those thoughts of taking your life. I contemplated that. It's so we are so fragile at times that it's good to have people to look out for. So anyone listening or watching this, look out for somebody that you love. Make sure that you're taking care of them. Find information in a moment will lead to some of that resources that you can look into, and make sure that we're all safe. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to anything more to depression that we might need to.
No, not I just to say that don't don't just put it under the rug. Don't
Yeah.
just tell someone like, oh, you'll get over it.
Mhm.
Like it'll pass. It's just a moment. It's just a phase. And just think positively. Just think good thoughts, and you'll be fine.
Mhm.
Like that's one thing you should not do, because like they're past the sadness. Like
Mhm.
you know they're in this just this place in this condition where they that's how they're thinking now. It's not
Mhm.
just how they're feeling, but it's how they're thinking
Mhm.
now. It's just, they feel like there's no hope. They think there's no hope anymore.
Yeah.
Because when it's a feeling, you're like, okay, like if you can kind of overcome a feeling with your thoughts, like like I may feel this way, but I know that I can do this.
Mhm.
But when you're in that state of depression, you feel like you can't do it and you think you can't do it, and
Mhm.
therefore like that's why it leads to that suicidal thought where like
Mhm.
I don't feel it anymore, I don't think it anymore, and now this is it. So just that's one thing I do tell people out there: don't ever just brush it under the rug and just say like, oh, you'll get over it.
And it's okay to not be fine. There's days where you're not fine, and it's okay. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about mental health issues in their life, because there's always that person. Oh, you'll be fine. You're okay. You'll be fine. No, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be fine. It'll pass. there's a solution for everything in life. But if you feel the need to not be okay that day, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the race. There's so many things to live for, to look forward to. But there's those moments. It's okay to not feel okay, and definitely talk about it. Find someone that you trust, and talk about it. And I'll tell this because I keep that as a rule for myself when talking to other people. When someone comes to you to tell you their problems or their issues, emotional issues, um, never promise that you'll never tell anybody, because sometimes people have promised to not tell someone if they had suicidal thoughts, and then that person
Yeah.
has committed suicide, and then they feel guilty. I always tell people, look, I will. You can tell me whatever you want. I will not say a word. But if I feel like you're putting yourself in harm and you're putting yourself in danger, then I will speak out. So never make promises, to
Yeah.
someone, that is dealing with this, especially if they're gonna harm themselves, because you don't want to deal with that. Always speak out, but yeah, don't put it under the rug.
Thanks for saying that because that's very important. Never to, you know, let them, let them know that you're there.
Yeah.
And yes, like when you're speaking to me, I'm not gonna divulge this to everybody.
Mhm.
But when it's necessary because I love you, and if you do need that help, you
Mhm.
know, I'm your friend, and if I feel you're in danger, I will, help you.
Exactly. Um,
Definitely.
this brings us to the last segment of the podcast of our conversation, and this leads us into facts and misconceptions, because there are a lot of things that are misguided or missaid, and people are saying those are facts, which are not. So I'm gonna let Evie let us or tell us what are facts and what are misconceptions about mental health issues and mental health awareness.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. Um, there is many misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I we can like share so many, but I'm only gonna focus on two that
Okay.
are just, very important that I think, us as, if we are facing a mental health disorder, or if we're someone, that is surrounded by a person or people that, are facing these disorders, it's important to know. So one of the first things, that we should know is that a mental health disorder isn't a personality weakness. It's not, because of that person's character or flaws that they, have a mental health disorder. It's not because they're, you're stronger and they're weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And no, we have to, get that out there that it's not because of their personality. It's because of the things that around them, that they have faced, that they've encountered. Some people, face so many stressors, in such a short lifespan
Mm-hmm.
than other people do. A child may be faced with, hunger and like being poor and with trauma and abuse and all these things, in their lives at such a young age that other young child might not face. So it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, that they're stronger than that person. It just means that they, the things that they have faced, they has affected, their mental health. So that's, a very important thing to do. Never, say, wow, they're just a weak person, or wow, they, don't have a strong mindset, or just it's never attack their personality or the person that they are. It's, you have to look at what they're going through. It's
Yeah.
always like what they're facing, that we have to see, and, never judge them for what they're going through, because it could be more than we know. It could be more than we see.
Mm-hmm.
Like it says, never judge a book by its cover, because you don't truly know what life they've been through.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things that I, really wanted to put out there and share, because we have to be able to be, objective and see, like, that's because that's what I do. I see
Mm-hmm.
why people, you know, behave the way that they behave, why,
Yeah.
they're going through what they're going through, because we don't really know like their whole life story.
There's always
So
a
that's
reason.
definitely,
There's always a reason behind the actions or the
yeah,
attitudes, and so we must, yeah, understand the in order to understand the bigger picture and how to help people and maybe even how
Yeah.
to understand ourselves, we have to dive into and know the real facts. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And it could be like also a family thing, family history that they
Mm-hmm.
face, these disorders in their life, you know, and then us, in
Yeah.
this moment in our lives that we're facing this pandemic, it was very new to a lot of us, so we didn't know how to come into this or how to face this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for many young people, it was something new to them. So
Yeah.
they didn't know how to do it. So um, yeah, definitely not because of their character or of their personality. It's due to the things around them.
Yeah.
And then the second myth that I want to share as well is something that we think as well at times, that I can't do anything to help someone with mental health. I can't, I try to help them, but it just doesn't work. Like there's, we see them and we think that there's no hope for them.
Yeah.
And that's this huge mistake that we do, and even um, us, like people that know about mental health, we can fall into that as well, like feeling
Mm-hmm.
that hopelessness that, it can't, they can't get out of this state or this condition in their lives, and that's why, we give up on them and we don't try, and we just leave it at it as it is, and then we we could have done something, but because of that, that held us back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to share it, because that's something so important to, just internalize. Like I can help someone with, and if I don't know how to help someone, there
Mm-hmm.
is people out there that can help
Yeah.
someone. So that's very important to know, because if, yeah, you're feeling like you can't do it, if you can't, get to someone, or, sometimes we feel like, oh, maybe I can change the way you think, maybe I can take them out of that depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you feel like, in that state of mind where you feel like you can't do anything, I just want to let you know that you can do something by referring someone to someone that does.
Yeah.
So giving them that resource, like me in my line of work that I just recently was in. I was more of that person,
Mm-hmm.
that got people to those resources. I wasn't the therapist, I wasn't the counselor. I'm not there yet. I'm not licensed to do that yet. But I was that person that got the knowledge of what resources was in the community, what resources are in my community of Lancaster, so I can let them know, like, hey, Monica, like you are facing, depression, anxiety, you've went through domestic violence, you have this abuse, like these resources, you go here or go there, and they
Yeah.
can help you, with what you have faced, and as well, like for the children, like, hey, we have a mental health department that
Yeah.
they provide free therapists, for the children, or hey, there's these social connection groups that you feel like you feel isolated, so join these, you know connect groups that they're about different things, like some were like, if you love to cook, like, hey, you can
Mm.
cook together, like if you love to do arts and crafts, like there was like arts and crafts groups and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're not that person that can give that service, or do the counseling and or do those things, but you can definitely become knowledgeable about what resources are surrounding you to be able to help that person. So there's always something you can do.
And this is important for everybody that's listening or watching. Um, know about the resources. Maybe not for you, but you never know. In the future, you might need them, but know them because there might be someone in your life or someone around you that needs this information that they can't get for themselves, and you can be that facilitator that has that information that can pass it on. And so that brings me to this: what sources do you have for us that people can have a look at and find information about mental health awareness?
The first thing, like I mentioned right now,
Mm-hmm.
find out your community resource center.
Mm.
Most communities have them, and ours is a small community. We're out here in the Antelope Valley.
Mm-hmm.
We're like two main cities, which is Palmdale and Lancaster, and the surrounding cities. We have smaller ones, but those
Yeah.
are the two main ones. So we're a very small, community out here, but we have a community resource center.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that in your cities there is a community resource center. Ours is in Palmdale. I know the location of it. So you and yourself, if you're here listening, it's because you want to learn, it's because you want to
Mm-hmm.
help someone out there, or maybe you want to seek that help. So I start by saying, like, learn, go online, search a community resource center in your area, and there will be one. And there they provide you so many resources about where to get mental health, where to get GV classes, anger management classes, where to find these social connection groups, and just anything you can possibly think of, financial support. Like, just there's such a wide range of resources that are free. Most of them are free,
Mm-hmm.
people. Like, it's crazy, like the things you find out, like that there's so many people out there that want to help. It's just we don't know about it.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
knowledge is definitely like power, because you can help someone, or you can
Yeah.
find help by going out to those agencies, or in your community. So I definitely say, go right now, go search it, and know where this community is, where these agencies are. The second one is online. We have resources, access to online resources, and I'll share just one with you right now. It's called the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a helpline. So the number is 1-800-622-4357, and I'll provide that to Heido so he can share it with you guys. And definitely give a call to the hotline. They're not counselors. They will link you.
Mm-hmm.
They're that link, they're that plug, I can say it, to help you get those resources. They are knowledgeable, these knowledgeable people, to be able to tell you where to get these resources. Or in that instant, if you just need someone to talk to, if you're going through something, or you having those thoughts of, like, I want to take my life, you can call this helpline. And there's many helplines in your area as well, you know, um, suicide and prevention hotlines. I worked when I was in college. I joined the CSUN helpline because I went to Cal State Northridge. So I joined the CSUN helpline, and we had shifts from like 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. at night, and just people from the community of Northridge. It wasn't just college students, but it was just surrounding people that would call in when they just wanted to talk to someone, where they were going through a situation they didn't know how to manage,
Mm-hmm.
because that's why we're in this, we feel this anxiety, and because we don't know how to manage it. But there's other people that can guide you through that,
Yeah.
moment that you're going through. And then, so those are two very important ones. Go find your local community resource center. Online you can connect with the national helpline, and then through text. So if you have your phone, maybe you can access the internet, or you can go to the community resource center, and you have your phone, and you can text this number. It's 741-741. It's a crisis text line, and you just text them, like, anything, and then they'll respond to you. They'll provide a counselor that will guide you through whatever you're going through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the information, for educating us about mental health and what it is, the causes, the disorders, what is anxiety and depression. And thank you so much for debunking some of the misconceptions and providing us with real facts. And thank you for providing us with information. So, as Evie said, make sure you look out in your city. There's got to be someone out there that's trying to help. There's always a resource center, and I will be linking on YouTube the number that she gave us, and the text number that she gave us, and the link to that website as well, so that you guys can have it. Um, so, with that being said, any last words, any last thoughts you want to add to this conversation, Evie, before we say goodbye?
Just thank you for letting me be here and letting me share what I've learned. And if you're, you know, you find yourself in that place where you can teach someone else or just share this information, go ahead and do it because sometimes people need help but they just want someone to talk to them, you
Yeah,
know, and just let them know, like, hey, I do care. You know, they just want to hear, like, they'll come to you. People will come to you if they just hear, you know, that you know about this or that you care about, you know, people that are going through these moments in their life. So definitely, like, educate yourself and share. You know,
yeah,
and that's what I went to school to learn, but I definitely know that it's important to share, you know, what I know, and that's so I thank you guys for letting me be here and sharing with you guys, and just you know, don't stay where you're at, you know, just push through, and like Heido said, it's okay to feel, you know, not okay. It's okay to be not fine, you know, and just take it one step at a time.
yeah, yeah. Don't be afraid to speak out. If you need help, don't think like there's no one there to help you. There's always somebody there to help you. So don't be afraid to speak out. Sometimes we all live, busy lives. Maybe we're not paying attention as we should. But if you feel like you need to speak out to somebody, reach out to a family member, to a friend, someone you trust, a teacher, somebody, and don't, like she said, don't stay in there. We believe that you can get better. We believe that you can overcome this. So, yeah, let's all stay healthy. Let's educate ourselves. Let's read more and identify the things that need to be identified. And yeah, let's spread the awareness for mental health. And it's not a stigma. We're here to provide support. We're here to educate and support each other through all this stuff. So, thank you so much, Evie, once again for joining us in this conversation. And everyone else at home, thank you so much for being part of the In Between Podcast family. Peace out, y'all.